Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hoggcast. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing fine. I certainly am. Okay, what do we have for you on today's episode? We have for you some footage on the ongoing events in London where the extremely large protests are happening. They are protesting the concept of vaccine passports, which just 3 months ago the mainstream media and the BBC here in particular were referring to as conspiracy theories, but like a lot of things, they actually come true, and the only conspiracies that are being shared are from the likes of the mainstream media, but we'll get into that later. Now, I just want a quick disclaimer. This video is not a celebration of protesting. You know how I feel with protesting, especially when it's done by the people who do it pretty much day in, day out, which is the woke left. Of course, the mainstream media are in defense for them, but it's not a celebration of protesting. It's not a defense of the police or their actions here. We'll get into that later as well. It is a portal for people to view things and see it as it's meant to be, and not fed through the narrative of the mainstream media. That's just a disclaimer. You could say it's an educational video, but it's not a celebration of either side. It's just showing you what's happening in its rawest form. So let's get into this footage. We've got some footage to watch of what happened yesterday, and then at the end we're going to look over an award-winning disinformation journalist on Twitter. She works for the BBC Hong Kong, and we're going to see just how biased and snobberish she really is. I think I just coined the word snobberish, but we've made that word especially for you, Marianna. So let's get into this video. If you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube or BitChute. We're on BitChute as well. Hit the notification bell and share this video around. We are on YouTube, BitChute, and soon to be back up on Rumble. Okay, let's go. Now, you notice how you see this type of thing, and it always ever seems to be a patriot. It's very rarely that patriotic people or people who are conservative or on the right generally protest. It's very rare, right? But there's some things you need to take into consideration. One, a precedent has been set in the West where when people protest, or even worse, riot, looting and the like, they get what they want. That's a precedent that's been set by the likes of Tifa and BLM and the left. So when conservatives, who always abide by the law, they pay their taxes, they go about their business, and yet all they get is urinated on by the government, by the mainstream media, by big tech, by Hollywood and the entertainment sector, they think, why am I being the patsy, the fool guy, the jackass, the sucker, right? Why am I doing that when they're doing XYZ? This is the left, BLM, Antifa and the like, and they get what they want. Mob rule has arrived. That precedent has been set. And that's not me. That's not me, how can I put it? Defending mob rule. On the contrary, I don't want mob rule. I respect the police, the British police and the Canadian police and the Australian police, not so much, but the American police certainly. Now, the reason why you see these scenes at British, in Britain, right, is because the mainstream media want to frame the narrative as, look at these angry, these uncivilized kind of barbarian type people. Look at how they're acting. Don't take their side. Don't be on their side. That's how they frame it, right? That's how they frame it. That's why when BLM, Antifa do their thing, you never see these cops anywhere. They're nowhere to be seen. We just saw Extinction Rebellion breaking the windows in central London of the HSBC Bank. Breaking the windows with hammers and chisels. No one did anything. But people have had about enough. And I'll tell you something, right? The way the mainstream media and the BBC especially, and their disinformation reporter, the way that they have covered this is disinformation in its purest form, right? How can somebody win an award for reporting on disinformation when it's their stock in trade? It's just enough to blow your mind. Anyway, let's finish watching this clip and then I'll show you a clip of how many people were actually there. So people are saying, look, that's the end of the clip anyway. People are saying, stop it. I mean, that's it. She's likely a small business owner, right? This guy here dressed all in black, he could be a provocateur, you know, the way they like to dress. Now, they're throwing things at the cops. I disagree with that, disavow, of course. But they're doing it because they're angry. Why are they angry? They are angry because we've all seen the clips of them arresting old women for walking their dogs. That happened last year. I did a video on that. A woman in London was arrested for walking her dog. She was out of the house when she wasn't supposed to be. This was the time when you weren't allowed to leave your house unless you were going to the plantations. Or, you know, essential, what do they call it? That was it, essential travel. Go out, work, so you can pay your taxes, so the bourgeoisie can continue to live their life in lavishness. You know, the BBC licence fee comes from the taxpayers, so they would allow you to go out to do your job, to pay your taxes, so they could sit on their rear ends. But people have seen all of the images of, and the videos of cops arresting churchgoers. Not mosque goers or anything like that. No, they're okay. Remember, they're a protected class. But churchgoers or people out walking their dogs and so on and so on. So before we get on to the award-winning disinformation journalist, urinalist as I call them, let's look at a clip which shows you how many people are there, right? And then we will see how she framed it, right? Okay, so this is them marching through central London the other day. So you can see there are people of all ethnicities, religion. Look, he's Sikh, he's wearing a Sikh turban. There are people of different hues, beliefs, and religions and backgrounds and so on and so on. And look, how many people are there? It's not 300 people, is it? Come on. These... Okay, so these are people who remember how life was when we could be free, yeah? When people understood that life comes with risk, that you can't just... and you can't lock yourself away forever and eliminate all risk from life. You can't do it. People need to live, to live. You know, happiness is a very integral part of the human psyche. This is something that the people at the top of society who make all these bonkers laws, they understand it for them, but they don't understand it for other people, right? So long as they're alright. In Britain, I know that you can only ever really get the government to do anything when it starts to affect their apple cart, right? When their apple cart gets upturned, all of a sudden it's an issue. If it's affecting your apple cart, they don't care. So look, anyway, I wanted to show you this because now we're going to go onto the Twitter feed of the BBC's award-winning Disinformation reporter, right? Let's take a look. Right, so this is Marianna Spring. She is, quote, in her bio, an award-winning specialist reporter covering disinformation and social media at BBC News, at BBC World Service, at BBC Trending, Forbes 30 Under 30, Marianna, and her email address is the BBC. Now, this is a taxpayer-funded journalist. So how is she reporting on the taxpayers as they go about their march in London over the last day or so, right? So here is the first one. After reporting firsthand on online conspiracy theories about COVID promoted at protests, I have been bombarded with, here it is, this is what they always say, horrific threats and all of this stuff, yeah? I'm very happy the BBC has a specialist disinformation reporter investigating their impact. No one should receive this vitriol. Well, what about your vitriol? You have deliberately... This is the reason why people are replying to you in your comments, in your tweets. You're lying. And it's made worse. An aggravating factor in this is you wax lyrical about being a disinformation reporter. When you bring the disinformation, woman, you bring it. You don't combat it. You said that, and we'll get into some of her other tweets. You said that the people are out there that are denying COVID's real. No, they're not. They're out there to protest the continued lockdowns which have been going on for over a year because they want to open their businesses. They want their freedoms back. They want to be able to walk down the street choosing to wear what they want to wear. They want to be able to meet with their parents and their grandparents. They want to be able to cook a barbecue in their own back garden without somebody from the government telling them how far apart they should stand, what they can cook, how long they're allowed to be out there, how many friends they can have over. Also, just a couple of months ago, Marianna, you called the concept of COVID passports a online conspiracy theory when they're coming true. And now what are you doing? You're just continuing. They were protesting continued lockdowns and the concept of vaccine passports. They were tens of thousands strong. How do you report it? You say that they are only there. You said that there's only a couple of thousand people there at the most, and they are there because they don't believe that COVID's real. So what she's done, because it's all about the perception, this is how the mainstream media work. As I said with that footage of the cops being bombarded and that, they chose that clip specifically to frame the narrative as it's just a couple of hundred orc-like, barbarian, berserker-like people, unintelligent type people, and they combined that with the narrative that they're only out there, this 200 people, they're only out there because they don't believe COVID is real. These morons. So now look, she's handpicked the 3 or 4 of the worst, most foul-mouthed, replies to her disinformation. Now, I don't agree with people doing that. I've replied to her, but I've replied to her in a as polite manner as I could. It wasn't rude, but what I did do is I put my point across saying, look, you're lying. You are willfully lying. She doesn't need to be called the C word and all of that. Well, that's not going to help anything. Just like bombarding the cops isn't going to help anything, right? But that's not the point. What she's done here is she's handpicked 4 or 5 of the thousands of replies she got, and she's put them up to try to make it appear. This is what I'm saying, how they always frame things the way they want it to be, not the way it actually is. So she's done it to make it look like she's getting torrents of abuse from foul-mouthed, unintelligent berserkers who don't believe that COVID's real, right? That's not the case. If you look through her tweets, most people are saying, look, why have you lied? If you were there, like you say you were, if you spoke to people like you say you did, why is your version of what happened completely different to what actually happened? And the aggravating factor is you claim to be an award-winning disinformation reporter. When you bring the disinformation, you don't combat it. You are bringing it repeatedly. And you can see that it's worked. So look, you get loads of people are retweeting, and she's retweeting all of this. Look, this is horrific. Marianna is one of the best and most hardworking people on this beat. Oh look, journalist at BBC monitoring. So look, it's worked. She's put this out, and now all of her other mainstream media colleagues are all retweeting it, and then she's retweeting them, and so on and so on. The mainstream media circular firing squad. They're just retweeting the 5 of the worst comments she got. And again, I don't agree with that, but look, and Chris Mason, BBC political correspondent. You notice that the people who are coming to her defence are all mainstream media journalists. She's got her pronouns, of course. BBC journalist, BBC for presenter for BBC Urdu. Jen Bartram, BBC presenter. So you can see that because she hasn't replied to anyone who has given her constructive criticism or asked her to at least retract her disinformation. She's replied to nobody, but she's definitely reading it all because she's retweeting some of the comments, but only from her colleagues at the BBC. Alistair Coleman, former internet internet celebrity. Oh, disinformation, fake news, and North Korea media analyst at BBC Monitoring. Adil Ray, OBE, creator and writer of BBC Citizen Kane. Rachel Mackey, journalist at The Scotsman and Edinburgh Paper. Kaylee Lee Cooper, journalist for BBC World. James O'Brien, How to Not Be Wrong, The Art of Changing Your Mind. Maybe you should look into that yourself, Mr. O'Brien. O'Brien or O'Brien, however you say his name, I don't know. She claims to be a misinformation reporter, so she's retweeted all of this. Okay, it just goes on and on. So here we go, look. A few thousand anti-lockdown protesters marching through London. No, there weren't. There was possibly up to 100,000 people. Ostensibly, they're billed by organisers as a freedom march against vaccine passports. But on Telegram and Facebook, where protesters organise, crowds are heavily into fringe beliefs and online conspiracy theories. And what would they be, exactly? Wasn't COVID passports an online fringe belief only 3 months ago? So here she's linked to some Reuters stuff about the letter Q and its offshoot to save the children. Oh, like saving the children is such a fringe conspiracy theory. As if wanting to protect your own children is bad. I spoke to people who opposed COVID vaccines, and some opposed all vaccines. Others referenced anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and other false claims about COVID. Pray tell what these are. The protesters have a hodgepodge of beliefs, but they are all convinced that they're not being told the real truth. Well, they're not going to be told the real truth from you. The irony is astounding, right? It's hard to get your head around it. Marianna is an anti-disinformation journalist, award-winning. Yet she's giving you disinformation, okay? And in this tweet, she's saying that the protesters have a hodgepodge of beliefs, which she seems to think is a bad thing, but they're all convinced they're not being told the real truth, which is something that she would disagree with, whilst giving them not the real truth. How many loops of logic do you need to get your head around that one? And it just continues on and on and on. She didn't speak to any of the protesters. She spoke to none of them. None of them at all, right? Because she doesn't even know why they were there. Oh, she says ostensibly they were there for X, Y, Z. As if they were lying. As if they would lie about why they were there themselves. As if they need you to tell them why they were there. And she's doing that urinalist thing of saying, oh, she's come under... It's like they think that their word is law. They decide what the truth is. These award-winning journalists. You're not allowed to tell them why you went out. You need them to tell you why you went out. And if you disagree with what they tell you, they say, oh, you're giving me threats and do. Anyway, look, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think of all this down below. I would love to hear from you. If you haven't yet, if you're on YouTube or BitChute, subscribe to the channel. If you're on YouTube, hit the notification bell. But either way, share this around. Let's get this seen. Let's push back on the constant disinformation that is being pumped out by the mainstream media, who are given priority status, even on the likes of YouTube and so forth. Just, it gets to me. It bothers me. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.